podcast.
And right about now, it's time to be clocking in to those good vibes. Welcoming you back. This is Doster Andrew Lake. Very pleased to be with you, bringing you the acid quote of the day. I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be. I'm hoping you're smiling, hoping you're feeling the love, the warmth, the beauty, the inside loveliness that is this magic we find ourselves in. This dream, this peculiarity. I think that there is always this complex of someone saying you're on drugs when you're not. Just to explain weird behaviour. Look, there's going to be some background noise in this episode. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it, but it's just the way that it goes sometimes. I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be. A soap bubble just flew past my window. A soap bubble, or one of those, like, kids that blow bubbles, except it's just one of those bubbles. Bubbles. Anyway, the quote of the day, I'm hoping you're well, is, I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be. I remember quite some time ago, in my years as an adolescent, I would go to jazz music, and there was a particular jazz drummer that I used to watch and enjoy. His name was Simon Barker, and he's now a associate professor at Sydney University in Australia. He's like a big-time educator now, and he's done a lot for the jazz music of Sydney and Australia. Anyway, Simon Barker is this drummer who played in many different shows, and I somehow always managed to freak him out. And I remember this one time he did this show, amazing show, incredible show, and I went up to him afterwards, and he was sort of looking at me, and he knew he could see that he could have some words, and he knew that I wanted to talk to him, and I sort of wanted to talk to him, but all I said to him was, so what? That's all I said. I just said, so what? And he sort of looked at me and he nodded, and then I walked off, and that was it. And later I found out that he'd talked to one of my friends who was someone who was getting lessons with him. And he'd said, oh, that's such a weird thing to say. He must have had it going around and around in his head. And I don't think Simon Barker thought I was on drugs, not in that particular case anyway, but it was sort of just one of those behaviours that I did when I was a kid or a younger person. And I wondered if, people might have thought, is this guy on drugs? Another time something like this happened. This is when someone actually did win. This was when actually someone did say or wonder if I was on drugs. And it was funny because I wasn't even being so weird at this time, in this particular instance. So I was a pizza boy doing pizza delivery, as you do. We've all been there. Nothing wrong with that. And one order comes up to deliver, which is the manager's friend. So it's a local place, and sometimes people know people, and the manager was like, oh, this is my friend. And I delivered the pizza, and it was like, okay, that's fine. And it was completely normal. It's a thing that I've done hundreds of times before and did hundreds of times since, so there's nothing to it. And yet, somehow after that, the manager came up to me and said, his friend said, whatever you're on, they want some of that. And I don't know what exactly that meant. Like, they must have thought I was either tripping or mellow, or I think I know what it is. I think I know what happened, which is that around that time, which was actually also around the time I said this thing to Simon Barker of so what, around that time I had this idea that Simon Barker was this really peaceful, loving, mellow guy. He was really understanding. And so I was sort of trying to be like that. So when I went to deliver this pizza, this person must have thought that... Anyway, it's so weird how someone weird and different to you gets seen as something weird. And really the onus is on the person that doesn't get it. The person that is sort of thinking that it's weird. Because it's sort of like, well, how many different people do you know? How many different people have you experienced? How many different ways have you seen that someone can be? Because if you have seen how much difference there is between people, I'm sure you would say that I'm not that different. There's actually quite a lot of similarities between us. I mean, we both speak English. You understand English, don't you? We both have a basic set of wants and desires in life. We all essentially want the same things. And in that, there's quite a lot that's crossing over. There's quite a lot that is the same in us. Once you have someone who speaks a different language, well, that's an entirely different cultural background. That's very different. Another thing about this quote of, I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be, is that, before I get into that, I did also want to mention at the start, if you have a podcast and you would like me to come on as a guest, I would love to speak with you. I would love to share some stories, and I'd like to talk about anything you'd like, whatever your podcast is as a theme. I can talk about my life stories, my experiences in India, my experiences with meditation, my experiences with psychedelics, and I'd be happy to do anything, really, if you have a podcast or a YouTube channel. I know that YouTube is big as well at the moment. So reach out to me. You can either drop a comment or you can send me an email at andrewlakepodcast@gmail.com. Although I don't check that email too often, so it might take me a little while to get back to you, but I will eventually get back to you. More likely if you leave me a comment somewhere, then I will receive that. Yeah, anyway, let me know if you've got your own podcast. I'd love to be involved. So, back to the story. I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be. Now, the other implication of this is that you are drugs. The funny thing is that when you put this t-shirt on, after you've purchased it from Acid Quote Tees on Etsy, of course, another thing I forgot to mention, then it implies that you are drugs, which you are. Yes, everything is chemicals, as Tim Minchin would say. You are made up of something that is a composition. Now, we can say a composition of what? And we can say what is the exact experience of that composition and how is it changing and why is it composed in that way and how is it composed and what is it exactly composed of in its behavioral interconnectedness. But you can't argue with the fact of you being a composition, you being a thing. And the thing is that you are psychedelic whether you know it or not. You are multidimensional whether you know it or not. It's possible for someone to see more multidimensionality within you than you can see within yourself. And really, this is your zest. This is your stepping into life aliveness. When you become more alive, you get more zest for life. You open up your passion. Go and start that project you've been putting off. Continue the work on the project that you have been doing, that you promised yourself you would follow through on. And enjoy having new experiences. Enjoy having random people come up next to you and look at the things in the garden nearby and wonder about their conversations of what on earth is this thing? Round, it's made of wood, it looks like it's got something in it. That's a bit random. Another story that I like to bring up with this thing of being on drugs or not being on drugs is that also the opposite is true, which is that sometimes you think someone's not on drugs when they are, or something's not psychedelic when it is, or there's a psychedelic reference in plain sight that you didn't get, that you didn't see. And one of the favourite examples that I have is in Harry Potter. So there's this scene in Harry Potter where he comes up to face the bad guy, Lord Voldemort. And Harry Potter has his wand, and Lord Voldemort has his wand, and they both cast their spell at the same time, and the spells collide. And when they collide, it turns into colourful electricity that spurts out in all different angles. And it becomes this intense thing that they're connected by. Yeah, they become connected by holding onto the wand and the electricity and the connection and the things going in all different directions. Now, first of all, multicoloured electricity that has many angles to it and many shapes, geometric or otherwise, is very much an echo of the psychedelic realms, whether it be DMT or LSD or any other realm. There's many ways in which you enter these realms, but colourful electricity is one component of this realm. And what actually happens with Harry Potter is he's having this duel with Lord Voldemort, and entities appear next to him. Now, what are the entities? First of all, it's his mother, who's long since passed. Then his father, who's also passed. And then his friend, who recently died. Now, entities visiting you is very much something that appears in the ayahuasca trip, also I've heard. And I haven't done ayahuasca myself. It's not something that I can actually make a claim to. But I have done magic mushrooms, and I have done a number of other psychedelics where the entrance of a entity, a character, a presence, a person, is very much part of the trip. And what is it that Harry Potter's mum says to him in that moment, in all the intensity, with all the electricity, when he's holding on for dear life? She says, "You can do it. Hold on. Keep on doing what you're doing. You can make it through." It's words of encouragement. It's words of him being told that he's doing the right thing. It's him being told that he's on track. And of course then the connection breaks and he comes out of that state. And of course he now has the memory of the presence of being visited by those entities, his mother, his father. And maybe there were some other people too. I don't always exactly remember the story of Harry Potter in that particular scene. It's been quite a while since I've known that story. But the thing is that when you see that scene, either in the movies or in the book, particularly in the movies because it portrays it in such a psychedelic way, you think, oh, it's just magic. You think it's just, oh, that's the story of the fantasy world. That's the story of Harry Potter. But when you have experience with psychedelic compounds, you see that that's the psychedelic realm. That is exactly how psychedelics are. And you do wonder, was J.K. Rowling on drugs? Is that where she came up with this? And we all know, well, a lot of the Harry Potter fans would know, the way in which J.K. Rowling described her inception for Harry Potter. She said that one day she was on a train writing, and it was like this character came in and sat down right across from her. And this character was a fully formed personality, fully fledged, self-contained, clear, and absolutely its own being. And that entity was Harry Potter. That is Harry Potter. And of course, Harry Potter is a psychedelic entity. He is a being from the realm of psychedelics. And he's come to visit and crossed over into our world through the sensitivities and the creativity and the awareness of J.K. Rowling. And from there, he's made his way into that story, the story of Harry Potter, and then made his way into the culture. And then he's been portrayed by Daniel Radcliffe and everyone else, whoever gets to play that role. In the future, there will be other actors that take on that role when they reboot it or they redo it, or anyone else who plays a part in that franchise, in the Harry Potter franchise, whether it's in comic books as well. That's part of the expression, the drawings of Harry Potter, the pictures of Harry Potter, the comics of Harry Potter. And in all different ways, there is this expression of this entity that has come to Earth. And you can say, well, Harry Potter isn't real because he wasn't born out of a human being. He wasn't born in the way that you and I were, from a mother and raised in a family and gone through the culture that we have as humans on this planet. And yet, you have to say, in another sense, Harry Potter is real because, of course, we're talking about him, right? When I say Harry Potter, you have some idea of what I mean. When I say the name Harry Potter, you know that there's a character to that name. If he didn't exist at all, then there would be nothing to it. It would be a void. It'd be a vacuum. The name itself wouldn't exist. So just because he exists as a cultural phenomenon doesn't mean that he exists any less than you or me. And even beyond this, there were moments, of course, when Daniel Radcliffe said that he is Harry Potter. When his identity has been so much embodied from this entity that he has actually thought that he is the real Harry Potter. And in those moments, maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe these entities possess us. And maybe it is that we actually are these entities that are possessed into bodies. We are both from the psychedelic realms, you, me, and Harry Potter, and the all of us. And we come into this manifest world through many means. How about that for an idea? So, when we say that you are psychedelic, we really do mean it. And when we say that you are drugs, or you are chemicals, is a more nice way of putting it, well, we mean that as well. So I'm not on drugs, but this t-shirt might be. This t-shirt might be the thing that is on drugs, because that's the t-shirt that I'm wearing. And you can head on over to the Etsy store. This one would be fun to wear at a party, I think. This one would be really good, you know? I can see myself wearing this at a party and it making some interesting conversations. So head on over to the Etsy store and pick one up for yourself. And I hope you're having a beautiful day, enjoying your time. I hope you're not stuck in traffic. I mean, if you're stuck in traffic, you've got the Andrew Lake podcast to get you through. So we're taking you through by giving you some good vibes, by wishing you well, by pouring out the love, by having the warm feelings, by feeling the brightness of this big blue world that we find ourselves in. So have a beautiful day. Enjoy your times. I look forward to speaking with you again soon. The next episode will be coming up very soon. Before you know it, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Feel the love. Share the love. Stay cute. Stay beautiful. We'll be back very soon with more. Bye-bye. See ya.